Hi, and welcome to Exploring Dementia in Nature, part one of a video series of Help You to Help Others. This video is for anyone who may know someone living with dementia, maybe their partner, mother, father, friend, and it's for anyone who would like to find out more and maybe how they could help people connect with nature for their well-being. It's important to say that I'm not a dementia expert, but just someone who is passionate about helping everyone to bring nature into their lives in a way that connects with them. I hope you enjoy. Okay, let's look at some figures. There's around 850,000 people living with dementia in the UK. In Dorset, it's estimated that there's about 13,000 people aged 65 and above living with dementia. In addition, 548 people have been diagnosed under the age of 65. There's also around 50,000 unpaid carers, and some of those will be looking after somebody living with dementia. So dementia actually has a huge impact on people's lives. Our brain controls our every function, action, behavior, and is incredibly complex. Each type of dementia has its own symptoms and effects on different parts of the brain. Each individual will actually experience dementia differently, depending on what type of dementia they have and what parts of the brain have been affected. We're going to have a look now at the different types of dementia, the more common ones that you may have heard of. So we're going to have a look at some of the different types of dementia. Dementia is a disease of the brain, and there are many different types that people can get. And it's not a natural part of the aging process. So just because somebody's getting old doesn't mean to say they're going to go on to develop dementia. And in the same vein, there are some types of dementia, although rare, do affect younger people. So these maybe are the two most common ones that people hear of: Alzheimer's disease and vascular dementia. Alzheimer's disease covers about 62% of the people being diagnosed and affects the cells with plaques and tangles across different parts of the brain. Vascular dementia covers about 17% of the people diagnosed and actually affects parts of the brain that have been starved of oxygen. Another type is frontal lobe dementia, and this is damage to the front of the brain, and we'll find out the kind of things that this controls later on in the presentation. There's also Lewy body disease and mixed dementia, and mixed dementia actually makes up about 10% of the people being diagnosed. What's important to remember is dementia is an umbrella term for many different diseases of the brain. So there are many different things that affect the brain, and these are actually pulled under the umbrella of dementia. Okay, so here's our brain. Yes, I know it doesn't look like that, but for the purpose of this session, I thought it would be good for you to just see the different types of the parts of the brain and how they could be affected. So if we start off with the parietal lobe, which is at the back of the brain, this controls language, spatial awareness, and hearing. If we move on to the occipital lobe, that controls our vision. The cerebellum is balance, muscle, coordination. The frontal lobe is which is obviously at the front of our brain, is behavior, movement, personality, interpretation. The temporal lobe is where it controls our memory, our emotion, our hearing, our language, and our speech. And then the amygdala, which is deep inside the brain, is the center of emotional reactions, such as anger, fear, happiness. And the hippocampus is where we process new memories for long-term storage. So those are the different types of the brain, and those are the places, those are the things that can get affected. And it could be that you have a type of dementia that affects different areas of those, and some of them may be affected, but then the next day they might come back. So if you imagine it's like a load of fairy lights in our heads, sometimes they flicker on and off, and sometimes they go off completely. So it really just depends on how the dementia is progressing and what kind of effect it's having on the different parts of the brain. So the previous slide showed us what impairments or symptoms people could experience depending on what type of dementia they've got and what areas of brain have been affected. I mean, these include symptoms such as impairment to vision, balance, speech, or memory. But there's other impairments that people may be experiencing that we may not necessarily think of. So people may have problems with perception. So they may think that, for instance, a black rug outside of a shop or a puddle might look like a hole to them because their perception might be out and they might not be able to recognize that what that is. There's also misperceptions. So some people might see things as one thing as something else. So they, for example, they might miss a coat hanging up on a coat rack for a person, or a blue coloured floor as water, for example. There's also misidentifications. So damage to specific parts of the brain can lead to problems identifying specific objects and people. For example, mistaking a son for a husband or a brother, or actually not being able to recognise somebody's face at all, or maybe seeing a mug for a flat surface that you can't actually work out that it's in 3D. And people also could experience difficulty with orientation. So they might not be able to recognize their body sense. So they might be bumping into things, or they might swerve to avoid door frames. They might have difficulty actually reaching for things by not being able to work out the distance they need to go to be able to pick something up. These difficulties can have a big impact on the person with dementia, and it could actually be difficult with activities such as hobby readings and writings. They might have problems locating people. They might misinterpret reflections as an intruder, or refuse to go in a bathroom because it looks like somebody's in there because they can see themselves in the mirror. What's good to remember is everybody is different and unique. Each person will have their own dementia journey, and it's worth spending some time actually to realise that, and actually to make sure that whenever we do anything to help people, we're always keeping that in mind. So I just want to finish up by saying thank you. Thank you for spending the time to listen through those presentations. And I hope that you learned something. There are other ways that you can find out more. The Alzheimer's Society do a Dementia Friends session, which you can sign up for free to become a dementia friend. And there's other elements on our website. If you have any specific questions, you can email us at stepintonature@dorsetcouncil.gov.uk. And I just want to finish up by saying, check out the other videos that we have. The next video in here is about getting people out and about. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you.